Salamander dude, SaiyanSalamander here, and welcome to episode 2 of Outrealm Heroes. Last time we talked about Faye crossing over with Dragalia Lost, and talked about the 4 banner units and the Tempest trials that will coincide with it. I actually started making this video while working on episode 1, so I'm not sure how you all reacted to it, but I'm hoping everyone enjoyed it. For part 2, I decided to go with a less obvious crossover, but one I think would be really cool. This time the new banner features the world of My Hero Academia. More specifically, the fantasy AU that featured in the second popularity poll, and the third ending song, in Season 2. So let's start things off with the first character. There's only one way to start off this banner, and that's by talking about the main character himself, Inheritor of Power, Deku. Looking at Deku's fantasy AU, he seems like he'd be an infantry sword unit in Faye. For his weapon, I decided to name it Almighty Blade, after his predecessor. It's effectively a 19 might sword with its +3 attack bonus, and it also accelerates Deku's special cooldown. I was trying to figure out how to best reference one for all, so I figured the best way to do it was to give Deku an inbuilt bonus doubler, as well as the ability to grant bonus doubler to allies within 2 spaces. I thought this would be a good way to reference one for all being an inheritable quirk, by granting the same weapon effect to Deku's allies. I forgot to mention that I made Deku the demote unit for this banner, since I thought it'd be nice to have the main character a bit more easily accessible. I gave Deku an uninheritable special called Plus Ultra. It's a 3-turn cooldown special that scales off of 50% off a unit's highest stats. For his other skills, I decided to give him Wings of Mercy 3 as his 5-star skill, and Attack Speed Bond 3 as his 4-star skill, to make the skill more easily accessible to other units. Since Deku's always tried to protect and save others, I figured these skills would allow him to easily do that, teleporting to other units that need help, and then getting stronger by being surrounded by those allies. For his stats, I decided to mainly invest in his attack and speed, but he also has a pretty decent HP stat too. But his defense and resistance definitely could use some improvement through Dragon Flowers and merges. This will be able to assist with that a bit. I decided to give him a Super Boon in attack and speed, since Deku's a really speedy strong fighter, and gave him a Super Bane in the rest of his stats, as I thought the Super Banes could reference how his quirk made him hurt himself all the time, by making his defensive stats weaker with a Bane. Overall, Deku definitely has to fight for a team spot by being in a very competitive class, but I think that his unique weapon and special, as well as him being easily mergeable, makes him stand toe-to-toe with even the best sword units. The second character on the Fantasy Academia banner is the levitating cleric Ochako Uraraka. In the Fantasy AU, she looks like some sort of mage or cleric, and I had a fun idea with her being a cleric, so I decided to make her a flying staff user. Unlike most flying units, Uraraka doesn't have a Pegasus or a Wyvern, and instead uses her quirk, Zero Gravity, to float, similar to units like Brave Pikaah and Altina. As for her staff, I decided to call it Uravity Staff, named after her hero alias. It's a 14 might staff that grants the unit +3 speed, as well as having an inbuilt Dazzling Staff and Iote Shield. To top things off, I gave her Null Sea Disrupt so that she can fight back regardless of any Fire Sweep or Dazzling weapon she comes across. Her support skill is pretty standard with a Store Plus, but her special skill is where things get really interesting. It's a free cooldown special that, when healing a targeted ally, adds 1 extra movement to infantry and armoured allies, and also lets them travel over mountainous and watery terrain, just like a flyer can. Since the buffer only lasts 1 turn, the units can't end their movement in the middle of the water, or on mountains, but it does let them cross over that terrain, which can make it a lot easier for them to take down enemy units depending on the terrain. For the rest of her skills, I gave her Close Foil to boost her attack and defense, and make her able to attack most melee units, and a new tier 4 skill, Wrathful Staff 4. It works like Wrathful Staff 3, but added bonus that it resolves combat as if a foe suffered defense and resistance minus 15%. Since staff units can't get offensive specials, I figured it'd be cool to give them a weakened down version one. It works especially well in speedy staff units like Uraraka, as by attacking twice, Uraraka effectively gets to use Moonbow on any foe she can double. For Uraraka's stats, I focus mainly on attack and speed, giving her decent HP for a staff unit, but she suffers from low defense and resistance. But she does get a Super Boon in both, while having a Super Bane in attack. Overall, Uraraka is a great offensive cleric with a fantastic base kit. She can also be deceptively bulky, as long as you're willing to invest a lot into her. There's not a lot of staff units with preferred weapons, and there's even less flying staff units, so I'm sure Uraraka would be a welcome addition to any roster. You can't have a My Hero Academia banner without the main rival, right? Which is why character number 3 is King Explosion Murder, Bakugo. Coming to Faye as a Wyvern riding Axe Flyer. In the Fantasy AU, Bakugo uses a sword, but I wanted to give a 5-star focus for each colour, and I figured the axe suited him more anyway. Speaking of his axe, let's talk about it for a second. Like Deku's sword, it's effectively a 19 might weapon, but this time it's named after one of Bakugo's special moves, Howitzer Impact. And what's an impact weapon without an impact skill? Which is why I gave Bakugo a built-in mirror impact. Well, I say mirror impact, but it's basically a weakened down dual phase version of the skill, preventing a foe's follow-up attack on both phases, but only giving a +3 and +5 bonus to Bakugo's attack and resistance respectively. I also gave him a built-in Wrath skill, since Bakugo is an angry boy, so I figured the skill would suit him well. I also gave him an Iote shield to get rid of the effective against fire bonus. For the rest of his skills, I gave him plus ultra like Deku, since it's the school's motto, so I figured most of the units from the Fantasy would share the skill. I also gave him Fury 3 and Rao's attack defense 3, since like I said before, he's an angry boy and prefers to work alone. For the final skill, I gave another unit a new tier 4 skill by giving him Vantage 4. This skill isn't out yet in Heroes as of me making this video, so I just made it work as long as the unit's below 100% HP. For the stat line, Bakugo's got a fairly balanced stat line. His only weak stat is resistance, but his weapon combined with Fury managed to patch it up decently enough. I decided to give him Super Boon in attack, but also a Super Bane in resistance, making it a hard stat to fix with minus resistance. For the final unit on the banner, there was no way I could leave out the last member of Class 1A's Big Three. In Fae, I made him a Blue Mage Cavalry unit. He's the Elemental Knight, Todoroki. Todoroki has a horse in the Fantasy AU, and I figured making him a mage was the best way to show off his quirk, half hot, half cold. For Todoroki's weapon, I decided to call it Flash Freeze Burn after one of his signature moves. It's an 8 Might Brave weapon with a -2 speed penalty, since I figured having an automatic double would be a great way to reference his dual quirk. Similar to the Master Sword and the Master Bow, this is a dual-phase Brave weapon. So Todoroki attacks twice regardless of whether or not he's the one to initiate combat. And if you think no weapon couldn't get any better, I also threw in a conditional close counter that activates if he isn't adjacent to an ally. Much like Bakugo, Todoroki works best alone, so I gave him skills like Attack Speed Solo 4 and Rao's Attack Speed 3 to reference this. I also gave him Chill Speed, as he mainly still uses the cold side of his quirk, so I figured I'd reference it with a chill skill. I also gave Todoroki plus Ultra for a special skill, just like with Deffo and Bakugo. I considered Iceberg to reference him leaning more towards his Ice quirk, but I didn't want to leave him out the plus Ultra squad. As a cavalry unit, Todoroki's BST is a lot lower than the other units on this list. That combined with brave weapons having lower might makes him seem a lot weaker compared to the other unit. I decided to give Todoroki a Super Boon in attack and speed, to try to boost them up a bit more, as they're still fairly low for being his best stats, though he has a Super Bane in HP. Todoroki is still a monster of a unit, and I think it's finally time for Reinhardt to step aside. There's a new Blue Mage nuke in town. Now that the Fantasy AU banner's over, it's time to talk about the new Tempest Trials, which means new seals and another new unit. I figured I'd name the Tempest Trial event after the motto you've heard multiple times in this video already.
Go beyond! Plus!
For the new seals, I decided to go with Brazen Speed Defense and Attack Speed Solo 3. Throughout the Tempest Trials, IS has slowly been adding all the Brazen skills to the S skill seal pool, and have recently started to add the solo skills too, so I figured why not add them both to this event. As for the new unit, there was a ton of choices, but I figured since he was one of the main characters in the third My Hero ending, I should go with the Turbo Fast Knight, Tenya Ida for the Tempest Trials reward unit. Ida seemed like he was going to be some sort of knight or paladin class in the Fantasy AU, and he also rewarded a sword, so I figured I should make him an armoured sword unit in Fae. I named his weapon after his brother's hero name, Ingenium. It's a 16 might weapon that grants an extra +3 to Ida's speed. Ingenium has an accelerated special cooldown -1, and if unit's HP is below 50% and unit initiates combat, unit can make a follow-up attack before the foe can counter-attack. Like the other My Hero units, Ida has his own unique special, but instead of plus ultra and zero gravity, Ida's special is Reciprio Burst. It's a free cooldown special that increases Ida's damage based off of 50% of the unit's speed. For the rest of his skills, I gave him Flashing Blade 3 at 4-star rarity and Armor March 3 at 5-star rarity. Flashing Blade was already available on a TT unit with Summer Yulga, but now it's available without having to spend 20,000 feathers to get it to 5-star. As for Armor March, I think it's been a 5-star exclusive skill for far too long, and while it's only available to Ida as a 5-star unit, at least the skill is now available in the Grail shop, so you don't need to hope for it to pull a 5-star unit with the skill in the regular summoning pool. As for Ida's stats as an armoured unit, he has a really high BST, so his stats are really good. He's one of the fastest armoured units in the game, and he also has great HP, attack, and defense too. His only bad stat is resistance. With that, I think it's just about everything with episode 2 of Outrealm Heroes, so I hope you enjoyed it, my dudes. Like before, if you enjoyed, I'd appreciate if you could like the video and subscribe if you want to see more. Let me know what other series you'd like to see in Outrealm Heroes, or some more characters you'd like to see from Dragalia Lost and the Fantasy AU of My Hero Academia in the comment section below. Until next time, my dudes, bye!